In 1925, a sled dog named Togo ran further through an Alaskan blizzard than any dog in the most famous rescue in American history. He saved a town that had no other hope, and then the world gave the glory and the statue to a different dog. This is the story they got wrong. To understand what Togo did, you have to understand where he did it. Nome, Alaska in the winter of 1925 was about as far from help as a town could be. It sat on the edge of the Bering Sea, and once that sea froze over, the last ship was gone until spring. No roads in, no way out except by dog sled. So when a dangerous illness called diphtheria began to spread, the only doctor in town, a man named Curtis Welch, found himself facing a problem he could not solve. His medicine had gone too old to work, and the nearest fresh supply sat almost 700 miles away, across frozen wilderness in the dead of winter. No plane could fly in that cold and dark. No ship could break that ice. There was only one way to get it there in time. They would carry it by hand, dog team to dog team, in a relay across the ice. About 20 mushers, 150 dogs, running day and night through the storm, in what the newspapers would later call the Great Race of Mercy. And the longest, most dangerous stretch of that race would fall to a 12-year-old dog that years earlier nobody had even wanted, because Togo had been a difficult puppy. He was small and sickly and so wild that his musher, a Norwegian named Leonhard Seppala, once gave him away to be someone's pet. But Togo would not have it. He broke loose, found his way back, and fought so hard to join the team that Seppala finally gave in and let him pull. The little troublemaker turned out to be a natural. Before long, he was leading the line, and by 1925, he and Seppala had run thousands of miles together and trusted each other completely. When the relay began, Seppala and Togo set out from Nome to meet it halfway, running east into the teeth of the wind. They covered more than 170 miles just to reach the point where the medicine would be handed off. And then, with the serum finally on the sled and every hour counting, Seppala made a decision that could have killed them both. Instead of taking the safe route, the long way around the bay, he chose to cross straight over it, over the frozen surface of Norton Sound, a stretch of sea ice that could shift and crack and break away beneath them without warning. The temperature dropped to 30 below and the wind made it feel closer to 80 below. The light faded until Seppala could barely see his own hands, and out there in that white nothing, all he could do was trust the dog in front of him. And Togo never faltered. He picked a path through the storm that no human could have found. They made the crossing. They reached the serum. And then they turned back onto the ice for home, not knowing that the worst of it was still ahead. As night came down, the wind grew worse, and behind them the ice began to come apart. A crack opened across the frozen sea and kept widening, until Togo and the whole team were stranded on a slab of floating ice, drifting slowly away from the shore, with the medicine still lashed to the sled and nothing but black water on every side. What Seppala did next became the stuff of legend. With no other choice left, he tied a long line around Togo and threw his old dog across the gap of open water onto the far sheet of ice. And Togo understood. He took the line in his teeth and began to pull, dragging the drifting ice back toward the shore until at last, it closed enough for the team to leap across. They ran on through the night. By the time Togo finally handed the serum to the next musher and collapsed into the snow, he had carried it across a stretch twice as long as anyone else's, and run more than 260 miles in all, farther than any other dog in the entire relay. The race went on without him, and on the 2nd of February the medicine reached Nome. The outbreak was stopped, and the town was saved because a chain of dogs had refused to quit. The final leg into Nome, the last 50 miles, belonged to another team, driven by a man named Gunnar Carson behind a lead dog called Balto. It was a savage run through a whiteout so blinding that Carson lost the trail more than once, and when his sled flipped in the dark and the serum vanished into the snow, he dug for it with his bare hands until he found it. He brought the medicine home, and because his was the team that crossed the finish line, it was Balto the world chose to remember. His picture ran in every newspaper, and within the year a bronze statue of him stood in New York City. Togo, who had run 5 times as far across the most dangerous ice of the whole race, was almost forgotten. Seppala never made his peace with that, because he knew the truth of which dog had really earned it. Years later, the famous explorer Roald Amundsen is said to have honored Togo with a gold medal of his own, but by then the world had already given its heart to another name. Togo lived out his years quietly, far from the crowds that had cheered the wrong dog. His sight dimmed and his legs grew weak, and in 1929, at 16 years old, he was finally let go. For most of the century that followed, history kept the names backwards, but slowly the record was set straight. Today you can still visit him, his small body preserved in a museum in Alaska, and in New York there now stands a second statue, a little bronze husky with his nose lifted into the wind. Togo, the dog who ran the farthest, through the dark and the cold and the breaking ice, for a town full of strangers he would never meet and never once ask to be remembered.